Spenny, I never thought I'd find myself pining for the simpler times when President Trump was facing career-ending and, frankly, life-ending lawfare because he would have died in prison if they were able to get all of these trials over the finish line. He's facing like 489 years in federal prison. They were live on air, squeeing and talking about how Donald Trump could be protected by the Secret Service inside of prisons. James Comey was doing this and giggling while plotting his next seashell arrangement on the beach in his Borat Speedo. Anyway, the point is that it was Alina Habba in those dark days. Man, I just remember them fondly because it was Alina pretty much standing by herself on courthouse steps around the country defending the president, talking to the media with a full heart inside and outside of the courthouse. And, doing a hell of a job. Alina Habba, a regular on our program, beloved by our audience, has had an infuriating setback just moments ago. She, of course, was the appointed U.S. attorney for New Jersey. And because the Senate GOP decided that they are not going to surge her nomination past Democrats, well, she's now been stonewalled. Activist judges have disqualified her from being the New Jersey U.S. attorney because of the Senate GOP's pathetic inaction.
Is now siding with a lower court ruling to disqualify President Trump's pick for New Jersey U.S. Attorney Alina Habba. So there is a 3-judge panel, and it ruled that the Trump administration used an illegal method to nominate Habba as the top prosecutor in the state. The judges wrote in their opinion that Trump administration's argument would effectively permit anyone to fill the U.S. attorney role indefinitely. And this case could see further appeal before a full panel of Third Circuit judges, or it could head to the Supreme Court, and we'll keep you posted on what happens.
See how Democrats play this game? Even like your constitutionally mandated responsibilities can be just thrown out the window. It is remarkable how savage these people are. They have nothing but the federal government. That's it. That's their God. The Supreme Court is their high church. These halls of government, obviously power is everything to them. They are godless people. And so they're going to do everything, and Republicans got to just get their minds straight because we don't think like them. They think like animals. Like a wolf that's hungry just doesn't care. Right? If you're encroaching on a wolf's territory, it doesn't matter what kind of a beast you are, it'll just attack you. And we gotta reorient ourselves. We're living in this fever dream that every Democrat is Bill Clinton, right? And just trying to trying to cut taxes and cut the deficit and bridge both parties and just a down-home guy from the South, right? And he just would have been a Republican in any other year, whatever. He liked JFK. That's not the Democrat Party anymore. These people, they behave like political terrorists, and this is what they're doing here with Alina. Acting U.S. Attorney Alina Habba has been disqualified after the Trump administration violated federal law to keep her in her post, according to federal judges. The 3-judge panel unanimously upheld the lower court's ruling that found Habba's appointment was non-compliant with the 1998 law governing federal vacancies. It is apparent that the current administration has been frustrated by some of the legal and political barriers to getting its appointees in place. It says in a 32-page ruling, you can find the ruling right here. But let's go ahead and read the summary of it. Its efforts to alleviate or to elevate its preferred candidate to U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey, Alina Habba, to the role of acting U.S. Attorney demonstrates the difficulties it has faced. Yet citizens of New Jersey and loyal employees of the U.S. Attorney's Office deserve some clarity and stability. The panel, made up of 2 judges appointed by W. Bush, and by Obama, sided with the initial ruling after hearing arguments at which Habba, a former personal attorney to Trump, was present. Monday's ruling is the latest setback for the White House after a federal judge last week dismissed Virginia criminal cases against James Comey and Letitia James. Goodness gracious. In those cases, the judge concluded that the prosecutor filed charges Lindsay Halligan was also unlawfully appointed. The Justice Department said it intends to appeal the rulings. A similar dynamic played out in Nevada, where a federal judge disqualified the Trump administration's pick for U.S. attorney there. Habba's appointment has been challenged by defendants in 2 federal criminal cases out of New Jersey. The lower court's judge granted their motions to disqualify her from the prosecution and invalidate her actions during late July, stayed the order pending appeal. The government argued Habba was validly serving in the role under the federal statute allowing the first assistant attorney, a post that was appointed by the Trump administration, to temporarily perform the duties of U.S. attorney. Habba's 41. She was initially sworn in on March 28th. An appointment meant to last 120 days. On July 22nd, a panel of federal judges voted to not extend her term, elevating first assistant U.S. attorney Desiree Grace to the post. Pam Bondi fired Grace and replaced her with Habba. The appeals court ruled that because Bondi did not first appoint Habba first assistant to Grace before dismissing her, Habba's later appointment to acting U.S. attorney was not legal. In addition, the judges ruled that law barred Habba from serving as acting U.S. attorney after President Trump nominated her for Senate confirmation, despite later withdrawing the nomination to allow her appointment to replace Grace. The government's reading of the nomination bar cuts against its own separation of powers argument. Its interpretation would mean that even rejected nominees, not merely withdrawn nominees, would serve later appointing officers. Okay. So I guess, it obviously gets into the legal weeds a little bit here, but, if you care to follow these kind of things, you can obviously see what's happening. I think it's, frankly, I think there perhaps have been some potential missteps here when it comes to getting Alina Habba into this position. Not that she's not right for it, obviously. We're massive fans of Alina Habba. But that I think they're, much like with the James Comey situation in Virginia, there was potentially a rush to get the nomination through and not do it in a way that would comport against these types of attacks on the Trump administration. This is what happened with Lindsay Halligan. And instead of competently and swiftly managing this, I think there's like a learning curve, much like there was in Trump term 1.0 on these things. This is what the deep state is so damn good at. Anyway, that we're Alina Habba fans. We were just hanging out with her at UFC. Alina Habba was also on Maria Bartiromo's show with us this weekend. She is no longer the U.S. attorney for New Jersey. This is her last media hit, what she was talking about. I mean, I guess at some point, just give her a job at the DOJ, right? Just put it right inside the executive. But nonetheless, here it is. Frustrating, quite frankly. The devil's in the details. This is how they get you. And this is why I will never accept a federal government role. I will never, ever want to work inside of the federal government, right? The entire system is totally rigged and rigged against patriots. Here you go.
Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, on the charges that the Justice Department is seeking against the suspect, the Afghan national accused of shooting 2 National Guard members on Thanksgiving Eve in Washington, D.C. Joining me now with more is acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba. Alina, it's good to have you this morning. Thank you for being here. We would hope that we're talking about different things, but unfortunately we're not. We heard from Jeanine Pirro, U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. We also heard from Attorney General Pam Bondi saying she's urging prosecutors to seek the death penalty here. Many people are wondering what justice in a case like this will look like.
it will be swift and heavy. And I can tell you that the U.S. Attorney in D.C., Janine, is just tremendous. She will have no mercy, as she should not, on something like this. This is an absolute failure of the prior administration, as we know, that has allowed open borders. And we've seen time and time again protesters coming out for what? This is a crime that should not have happened. It was avoidable. And that is why this administration is so focused on, number one, getting illegals out. Number two, getting people that were brought in that want to commit crime, that are not Americans, get out of our country. We don't want you here. If you don't love this country, we have no patience or time for you, and we will bring the law down when you hurt our patriots. And that is what happened here. This woman's life was taken too soon. And I know that Janine's just going to be tremendous. When she prosecutes this case, she will do justice by that family.
There are a lot of questions today about what we know about the suspect, what his ties were to the United States. We understand that he was working with the CIA in Afghanistan. I bring up again that image of folks clinging to airplanes as his chaotic withdrawal under President Biden was being carried out. Everybody was displaced everywhere, concerned about the Taliban coming in and the dangers that were lying ahead on the ground. But we didn't really think about the danger of bringing 80 to 100,000 people that we hadn't vetted properly into this country. And so if you were just able to say, well, I worked with the CIA and I was trying to help the Americans, you were brought over here. But we don't necessarily know that that was true.
I think what you're implying is that there was a stringent vetting process under the prior administration, and that in itself is flawed. There was no process. We were allowing open borders. We were allowing criminals to come into our country. And then there were individuals that were saying that this should be a safe harbor, a safe haven. Why? America is America because we protect our own. We don't allow this to happen. So when you say we, I want to be very clear. It is not a we. It is not the Trump administration. It was not Trump 1, and it is most certainly not Trump administration that is currently happening. It was the Biden administration that allowed this individual in, that didn't properly vet them, and now an individual who stepped in for someone on Thanksgiving so they could go home, who got sworn in the day prior, is now dead. A 20-year-old is dead. And that is why we fight so hard every day at this Department of Justice. That is why this Trump administration is completely focused on making our streets safer, so that crimes like this, that had no vetting, should never happen.